Okay, this is continuance of Clovis the First. What appears merely probable at first sight is converted into a certainty by an attentive examination of certain anecdotes of the monarchy. From the will of Philip the August, and from various ordinances of the monarch who succeeded him, it is evident that there were churches exempted from the regale. What could be the reason of this exemption? It is certain not to be found in the acts of the Council of Orleans, which, according to the author of the chronological abridgment, subjects all bishoprics generally to this right of the crown, nor in the protectorship of which the French monarchs exercised over all churches indiscriminately, nor yet in the prerogative of founders and patrons, which is common to all sovereigns. Though all sovereigns do not enjoy the right of regale, it must then be thought and sought for in the nature of the possessions which constituted the revenues of those churches. They were not subject to the regale because they held no fief of the king. Thus we see the ecclesiastical fiefs in some of the ancient French authors styled regales. They tell us that the bishops of Orleans and Auxerre have refused to produce the men they were bound to furnish. Philip the August seized their regales, that is, according to the explanation of Rigaud, all the possessions which they held of his majesty in faith and homage. So it looks like some are being partitioned out of their possessions based upon the rights of regale. Whatever may have been the origin of this prerogative, we are assured by Gregory of Tours that the first race of kings enjoyed it, notwithstanding the opposition of many of the bishops. Popes Innocent III, Clement IV, and Gregory X acknowledged its validity by their bulls. The Council of Lyons authorized in those churches where it was established at their foundation or by ancient custom, but it prohibited the introduction of it in such as were not before subject to it. The Parliament of Paris, the sole judge of these matters, always maintained that the regale, being a right of the crown, ought to extend to every bishopric in the kingdom. In 1673, Louis XIV issued an edict where the regale was declared to be an unalienable and universal throughout his dominions. This edict was confirmed by the Parliament and subscribed by all the clergy at the General Assembly, except the bishops of Alethe and Pamiers, whose refusal was punished by the seizure of their revenues. Pope Innocent published some bulls of excommunication in their revenues and in their favour, but the matter was accommodated under the pontificate of Innocent XII, and the universality of the regale solemnly acknowledged. Okay, so not until 1673 is this becoming more high. You can't block so many different churches. The assembling of the Council of Orleans was the last remarkable event of the reign of Clovis, who died the same year at the age of 45 and was buried in the church of St. Peter and St. Paul, which he had caused to be built. It had been a subject of dispute with historians whether the military or the political talents of this prince were the most eminent. Gaul, subdued by his arms and preserved by his prudence, affords a proof that he was equally skilful in the cabinet and formidable in the field. Such a tribute of admiration as a continued series of victories may command is certainly due to his conduct at the commencement of his reign, but it is not success alone that can endure and ensure the commendation of a historian. It is his duty to weigh with candor and impartiality the motives that influence a monarch when he engages in a war that terminates in conquest. And such an investigation induces us to condemn what was hitherto some consideration as a theme of applause in the life of Clovis, who was certainly actuated by ambition and a culpable desire of extending his dominions. In most of his contests with the neighboring monarchs, and when thus urged, he alike despised the principles of justice and the dictates of humanity. If then we are compelled, from these considerations, to withhold the praise which has been too profusely bestowed on the former part of his reign, what terms of censure sufficiently strong can we employ to mark our detestation of its conclusion, which exhibits a disgustingly scene of violence and cruelty? His injustice and barbarity are, unfortunately, but too conspicuous, and his conduct in particular to the princes of kinsmanship sinks the hero in the usurper. So he's definitely not classed as a hero by historians, and they are giving him some kind of allegiance in some respects, and yet in others he is still known as barbarian. We are going on. We have Childebert the First, as that's my next chapter, and I guess that was more of just again the discussion of, the basis of France is really the beginnings of this Clovis, who was in reality a murderous content. He took his dominion not in kind. It was in fashion of absolute terror, and yet he became the forefather of the nation that we have today. I'm going to stop this recording.